I never thought I would be in this transitional period as early as I did. I started shaving when I was like 22, 23.
Yeah.
So I just owned it,
Yeah.
out the gate. I didn't want to be one of those dudes who was patchy with the fryer. I think barbershops and barbers themselves have leveled up because now they're part estheticians. They do so many different services, and I think it's now about like men's healthcare. I had a mean afro.
Okay, you had
I had a mean afro when I was about 13, bro.
Did you ever braid it up or?
Yeah, I tried it, but it wasn't for me.
Yeah.
The shit hurts. I'm tender-headed, whether it was Reggie Miller, whether it was Ray Allen, whether it was Michael Jordan. They're all like snipers. They're stone cold killers in their primes. They were stone cold killers.
Hold on.
I don't get to lose anything but a little bit of hair. I already shaved my face. It's gonna grow back. If I really wanted to rock the ugly baldy, I could. There's nothing that you're gonna lose that outweighs what you're gonna gain.
Woo!
And I think that's the most important piece of being bald.
Welcome back to another episode of the Come Home Podcast. As you can tell, we're back and we're balder than ever. Today, I'm in DC with it, and I got a very special guest with me. I got Chef Corwin Hemming. Corwin, what's happening with you,
brother? What's up, brother? Appreciate you for having me on.
Of course, man. Happy to have you. Before we get started, man, obviously we're in DC with it. I know who you are. We got to make sure the people know who you are.
Okay.
Man. Give them a little bit of kind of background on who you are, man.
My name is Chef Corwin Hemming. I am a chef based now in Washington, D.C. I grew up in a military family, so I've lived all over the world. I was originally born in Georgia, but now the DMV is home after being in New York City for about the last 10 years.
Okay, no doubt. You said you're a chef. Before we get into the mix of the podcast, we got to talk about food for a quick second.
Okay.
As a chef, what would you say your favorite food is?
That's a tough question. I love Korean food, Asian food, for sure. It's a passion of mine, but I cook fine dining Caribbean cuisine, which my family's Jamaican, and so I like to lean into that space just because the diaspora is booming right now and there's so much room for the Afro-Caribbean food scene to just really develop and grow. And we're seeing so much talent, not only here in the Americas, but around the world, really put restaurants in a position to compete with the best of them.
Okay, no doubt. And we are in DC, and depending on who you ask, people have differing opinions on the DC food scene. What is your take on the DC food scene? And if potentially you were to create something here, what would be the best way that you'd enter the scene here?
So DC, I think, is a underrepresented market. It's also one that has been through so many things in the last 10 to 15 years. It's changing for the worse, for the better, but ultimately it has amazing seafood culture here, which I think everybody, on the Eastern Seaboard respects, from Maryland blue crabs, crab cakes. We've got our own fish culture here. There's shellfish here. So there's so many things that I think DC does really well in the grand scheme of food in the United States. But, with the global pandemic happening 5 years ago, it changed the food scene here. A lot of restaurants didn't make it through. And currently we're seeing a lot of restaurants are struggling now with bills being passed based around wages and the Trump administration really putting a damper on just business in general in DC. We're seeing a lot of restaurants are really struggling to get their traction back post-COVID. And we're seeing a lot of restaurants close right now. So it's a forever changing scene. Nothing's forever, but it's something that culturally here in the DMV, you have so many mixes of cultures that we have so many good restaurants. And so I'm just excited for DC to finally get stable. The Michelin Guide is here now. We're seeing DC level up in a lot of ways. James Beard is reflecting a lot of really good chefs around the country and restaurateurs. And so, DC's just gotta get stable. I think once we get there, I think this city has an amazing, ability to just continue to grow.
And can we potentially expect you to be a part of that?
Yes, 100%. I'm actually the chef de cuisine of a up and coming restaurant that's opening hopefully very, very, very soon. It's called Isla. It's representative of island cuisine globally with a focus on West Indian culture. And so the owners are Guyanese and Jamaican, and they're bringing their talents from Toronto. I actually met or crossed paths with the owner. Her name is Lonnie Murdoch when I shot this season of Top Chef. So we crossed paths, and I knew about her when I was there. I walked past her restaurant, and I was like, oh, I want to meet this lady. And then she ended up calling me and was like, hey, I'm looking for a chef. Like, I know you're in New York. And I was like, I'm actually not in New York. I actually just moved back to DC. Me and my wife just bought a home here. So this is my third time being back in the DMV area. So I'm really looking forward to just setting my roots and, being a part of the future here. I'm a Howard grad as well. And so a lot of who I am is rooted in this city, and I love this place.
So that's a perfect transition. First off, he said Howard. So all the HU folks watching, shout out to y'all for sure. Homecoming is right around the corner, as we know. But you just mentioned the fact you've lived in several different places, and you're back in DC for the third time, right? And now you're ready to settle roots. Is this starting to feel like home now as you start to think about it? Or you see
It's always kind of felt like home, even though my parents, they met in the military. They actually met at the old Walter Reed up Georgia Avenue. Yeah. So in the 80s, my parents joined the military post Vietnam, or like right as Vietnam was ending. And they met here in DC. And as we kept coming back, you know, my mom has old friends here. My sister's first babysitter still lives here. And so we have a lot of roots. You know, my sister went to Howard in the 90s. I went to Howard in, you know, the late 2010s. My little brother graduated from Howard in the 2020s. Ooh. So my wife's family, like that goes back to Howard in the 80s. There's so many things about my family dynamic that is like DC based. We come as many homecomings as we can. So moving back this time and like being a part of these like iconic restaurant openings that I've done, it's just like another homecoming for me. Yeah. And me and my wife are getting ready to welcome twins into this world. And so, you know, for me, it's like they're going to be born here. Like my nieces were born here. There's so many things that like I've had lifelong experiences here in the DMV, even though I've lived so many places and had so many experiences abroad and around the United States.
And those look like, I don't know, are those the HU?
These are the HU, low top ones. You know what I'm saying? I'm through and through. If I rep you, man, look, we bonded for life.
No doubt, no doubt. Well, man, you just, again, perfect transition. You just mentioned the fact homecoming, right? And here we're on the Come Home podcast.
Couldn't be any better way.
Right? Couldn't be a better way. And it's all about really helping men embrace their natural evolution, right? So I look at you today, a proud bald man. Well, we got to talk to about like how you really got here, right? Okay. What was that journey to get here? I know we talked off camera about both growing up in the 90s, the do-rag waves, but tell the people a little bit more about what your hair meant to you coming up.
Man, I'm a part of that like young black man 90s era where I lived with a brush in my pocket, a do-rag, an extra do-rag in your book bag. I mean, we had basketball shorts under jeans. So like our generation was just ready. We were about it. So I had waves growing up, man. I had nice hair and I never thought I would be in this transitional period as early as I did. I started shaving when I was like 22, 23. Yeah. So I just owned it, you know, out the gate. I didn't want to be one of those dudes who was patchy with a fryer. I was like, I'm going bald. It is what it is. My dad's bald, so at least I know what I'm going to look like. And then I decided, you know, one day I just kept going lower and lower with the cut. And I'm like, why am I paying, you know, $20, $30 for a cut when I could just shave it and it's cheaper? Yeah. You know what I mean? I'm already going bald. I might as well just own it. Like, if you know me, like when I lean into something, I'm all the way in. I'm either all the way in or all the way out. So it was just an opportunity for me to just lean in.
Let me ask you, between the time that you first noticed and when you shaved it, how long was that? And also, was there any point during that where you were like either getting jokes from like friends, whoever, family, et cetera? And how did you deal with it? How did you take that in?
First off, black men clowning each other is like it's a love language. It's a rite of passage. If you can't take the heat, you got to get up out the kitchen. 100%. So there was a couple points where like somebody was like, "Yo, how old are you?" And I was like, "I'm 20," and it was like, "Why the fuck are you going bald?" And I was like, "What are you talking about?" I went home, bro. I was looking in the mirror. I was like, am I thinning? Like, oh, I could fix that. Like, that's nothing. And then I went skydiving. That's when I really was able to see the top of my head. Cause I'm 6'2", I'm tall. So like, you know, I can't see back here. And then I went skydiving with my brother-in-law. And when I watched the video, I was like, oh, you're actually thinning. Like, you either got to do something about this. But this was back circa 2010. There wasn't a lot of resources for men to like really lean in if you didn't have money to like, you know, get, you know, somebody, a professional to look at it. It was Rogaine or what else? Yeah. You know, the turkey jokes, we make fun of people going to Turkey to get their lineup fixed, but that wasn't a thing back then. Nobody knew about this stuff. So there wasn't any resources. So that's where I just kind of was like, you know, it is what it is. But looking back on it, I always think like, what was the reason? Was it hereditary? Is it, you know, the water quality from your showers? Was it my diet? You know, was it, you know, my body showing a way of like stress? Yeah. And so, you know, some men, they gray early. Some men, they gain weight early. For me, it was just balding. So, you know, that was just I guess my body's way of showing like stress signals, or it could be hereditary. I don't think I'll ever know, but I think looking back on it, man, I would have loved to kept my hair, seeing how like dudes are creative with it. They got the curl sponges.
But you know what else we're seeing today? We're seeing the evolution of the man weave today. We see guys. It depending on who you ask, is very crazy.
That's crazy.
Could you have seen yourself being one of those guys?
No, never, bro. I'm too solid. I'm like, nah. I think a part of it is just like it's having confidence. You know,
talk
like,
about it, man. Talk about it.
If you can grow a little bit of facial hair, I don't think every man has the ability to grow like a Ross beard or like a James Harden beard. But I think if you can grow a little bit of facial hair, you can, you know, really put yourself in a position to look more mature.
Yep.
When you're wearing a suit or like some business casual, like women will compliment you.
Yep.
Like there's nothing like my wife rubs my head. That is the best feeling. I don't think it would have ever, you know, been what I thought it was going to be, but I'm here now and I enjoy it.
Yeah.
So
yeah. I think, man, like the idea of confidence and hair loss are so intertwined, right? Because oftentimes we think back about our hair loss journey, whatever it may be, and we don't really take a second and be like, why was I dealing with that anxiety? Why was I dealing with that self-consciousness? But ultimately, your hair doesn't make the man, right? We saw so many guys, we talked about the Jordans, the et cetera in the world who had hair before they ended up shaving their head.
And they got more iconic when they were bald.
More iconic, right? And there's actually data that says bald men are perceived to be more powerful, more dominant, more successful than men with hair. Believe it or not, that's how they're perceived. So it is funny how we look back on and how that kind of interconnection between confidence and hair loss all ties in to kind of help us find who we are today, man. So happy to have you there today. We got a lot more to talk about, bro.
Okay. Looking forward to it.
They say home is where the heart is. It's also a good scalp massage on the living room sofa while watching your favorite classic 90s film. That fresh shave in front of the bathroom mirror before a really big pitch. Being embraced with a head rub and a hug as you enter the front door after a long day. The best you awaits inside. Come home.
So for me, man, coming up in the barbershop, as we mentioned in the 90s, do-rag waves, I was going to the barbershop at least once every 2 weeks, sometimes once every week. Sometimes I would get the lineup, the next week get the haircut. Line up, haircut, right? Yep. But this was different when going haircuts was $15, $5 plus tip, $20 total all in. Right. And I remember being young actually and like going to the barbershop. Sometimes I would see bald men in the shop while I was waiting. You know, back in those days, I'd be in the barbershop with my homies. We would be in the barbershop 3 hours, like laughing, kicking it, whatever.
Watching basketball, watching a film.
Anything, bro. Chilling. Anything. That culture. But I would often see bald men in the barbershop, in the chair, and I'd be so confused thinking like, what is you doing? Like you have no hair.
Right.
But now being on the other side of that, I realized that the maintenance as a bald man increases. Right now I'm shaving every day, every other day to keep that clean shave bald, right? Because I was bald in here and my hair may not grow here, but everywhere else it grows just as fast, right?
Still to this day.
So that maintenance is real. Yeah. I want to know, one, talk to me about you coming up in the barbershop. How often were you going there? But then also, when you think about your current maintenance, how often do you go to the barbershop now as a bald guy? How does that fit into you? Because it's a little bit different as a bald man, right?
100%.
Maybe you're not going to go to the barbershop to get somebody to shave your hair bald. So I just want to talk more about coming up young Corwin in the shop and also adult Corwin in the shop, how that connection changes over time.
I remember being a little kid going to a barbershop. My mom would take me, my dad would take me, and it's just black men just being black men.
Yep.
Toxic sometimes. Don't let a fine woman walk past the window. Oh man, it interrupt the whole barbershop. But there's always movies playing, there's sports playing. It's always like we could talk.
Who's better than who? The Jordan, LeBron, Jordan,
it's constant
Kobe
debates,
and
like you had to really like fight to get your moment in to say your piece, because if you didn't, like you were just sitting there cracking up on the wall. But I think it's a cultural thing with black men to like be in the barbershop. And so I remember, being young and I had heard people, talking about going to get a bald shave, but it took me a really long time to like just find somewhere and be comfortable. One day I was like, I really miss barbershop. I would go back to get like my lineup done on my facial hair when I grow out my beard, but I don't have like a really involved beard. And so we see. It's not I'm saying I got the goatee, but like the size is not a full thick beard. And so I've missed that barbershop aspect for a long time. And it wasn't until I decided to give, there's a barbershop here in DC called Manifest.
I'm aware.
The ability to like get a bald shave. And it's more about overall, like having a routine skincare.
Yeah.
And they gave me a steam, they washed my head, they exfoliated, they massaged, they, will do a facial regimen if you want. You can pay to get whatever you want now in these barbershops. I think barbershops and barbers themselves have leveled up because now they're part estheticians. They do so many different services. And I think it's now about like men's healthcare, more than just going to a barbershop and just shooting the shit. And so when I went to Manifest, I was really just blown away. I try to go like once every quarter. Because I shave every 2 days on my own. But I really just like to, when I'm like feeling really tired or I need just like a mental health day or like a self-care day, I'll go to, Manifest and get a shave just because it is an experience. And it's relaxing, it's therapeutic. And so missing that barbershop aspect, over time, I'm looking back and I'm like, where did all this like Black men and paying attention to our hairlines become so involved? Because it was such an ingrained thing, but it was the first routine that I ever had.
Talk about it, bro.
Buying like wave pomade, and knowing where to get that. I forgot about all these things until we're sitting here talking about it. So like you're evoking like, memories and emotion with this, but getting your hairline done a certain way, getting the temp fade. Everybody had their like certain
question coming up. Did you ever go through, there was a phase where parts was quite a thing in our era, right?
Okay.
So many different kind of parts, whether it was, I remember this is crazy looking back on it. My senior year of high school, I went in and I got a part. It was a crown in the back of my head.
Okay.
And it had my graduating year on top of it. It said '08 and had a crown.
Okay.
And my first week of school, I had the fresh white ones. Of course, had to have those, probably a fresh pair of Jabots, but I had a fresh part. And I had
Jabos is crazy
back in the day. Did you ever have any kind of like freaky parts? The two lines?
I was very simple with it. I had waves, so I just was like the waves. You
couldn't mess with it. You couldn't mess with it.
So I knew I had a luxury in having waves, so I just used to wear the do rag and brush a lot.
Was the hairline tight though?
Hairline was
crispy. The hairline tight?
Crispy. Which I actually saw. There was a podcast the other day where I watched. They were talking about the evolution of the hairline. They look back at like the 90s and how like Michael Jordan didn't have a hairline. Like a lot of dudes in the 90s didn't have a hairline. People had the part. They had like the high top fades. But the hairline was like a later 90s, 2000s things that like our era really like leaned into. Like I think it really was Steve Harvey and the fake toupee that really cemented like that crispy, like perfect drawn in edge. And then now you see people like Jalen Rose.
Jalen Rose got the crispy.
I'm like, how you got a better hairline at 45, 50 than you did at 20? That's crazy.
You know what's crazy? I've never thought about the quote unquote history of a hairline. Because like you said, as far as we know, when we were coming up, we had hairlines at all points. It was never not having a hairline at our age.
100%.
So to hear that like maybe 10 years before that, there was no hairlines. Look at your baby
pictures. Look at your young pictures. I didn't have a hairline. I had nice hair, but my parents would get it cut. But like, I never had a crispy hairline until I started making the decision to get my hair cut.
What you're telling me is Steve Harvey was one of the first, the pioneer of the hairline.
Man, when they look back at some dudes in the 90s that like were in TV and media, they had some nasty work for hairlines, but there was no hairline. So their natural hairline was a little bit crazy. And so looking back at everything, I think like, it had a time where like DC and New York barbers really like leaned into taking that next level of like hairstyles. You see the Puerto Rican cats would get like the little parts in the eyebrows. And so I think over time people just got more comfortable with experimenting with their hair in general. And now dudes have the curl brushes, like people, the high top Jason Tatum fade. Like it's a lot of different hairstyles. And I'm like, man, if I still had hair, I would experiment so much more.
Let's get into this.
Okay.
I'm thinking about, you talking about experimenting, right? Mm-hmm. As a kid, or even, up until you went bald, what is the most experiment you did? I know you said you had waves, so you didn't do parts.
I had a mean afro.
Okay, you had an afro.
A mean afro when I was about 13, bro.
Did you ever braid it up, or?
Yeah, I tried it, but, it's when Allen Iverson, like, made every young black man, 2000, 2001, have braids. And I tried it. It wasn't for me.
Yeah.
The shit hurts. I'm tender-headed.
Are there pics? Do the pics exist? Do the pics exist of this?
Of me with braids? Yeah. No, I don't think so. But there is a picture of me with an afro. And my dad was like, look, if you're going to have an afro, you got to like have it like on some 70s. Like you got to puff it. And like I had to pick. So like I thought I was killing it. One of my friends was like, yo, can you grow African? I was like, yeah, I think so. And he's like, see if you can. And I just did. And I just rocked it for a whole year. I had a nice afro, bro. So I love that you brought up Allen Iverson, and we're talking about the culture, right? Mm-hmm. Like you can't talk about waves, barbershop, Steve Harvey, Jalen Rose, some of these people who are like well known for their hair without talking about Allen Iverson and his impact on the culture, specifically for black men, mm-hmm. specifically for braids. You said you had them for a second, or you at least had the afro, you braided them for a second. I'm Nigerian, mm-hmm. right?
my mom was not going for it, bro. She was not going for it. I wanted the braids, the AI braids so bad, the straight backs. But every time I always try to grow my hair, I couldn't get past my mom growing my hair for a month before she's like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
I'm taking you to the barbershop.
Mm-hmm.
And my African mom was not for it, but I wish I would have had the chance, though.
Yeah, I think it had a time.
Mm-hmm.
And you either had to have the look and the confidence to do it, because back then you had to go to
that rough page. You had to go to that rough stack.
You had to grow it.
Yep.
And then you had to get enough hang time. So when you didn't have no hang time, you was looking dusty.
And those jokes are coming in.
Yeah, bro. Niggas would call you beady. Oh, excuse my French. People would call you beady if you didn't have like it right. And so you had to go to a female salon to get your hair braided. You went from going to a barber shop. Now you have to go to a salon to get the braids. There's like a lot of it was just different, and you had to really just see the process. It was like having dreads almost. You just got to see the process indefinitely because you needed hang time to look good with it. Yeah. But my older brother used to rock it because he was really good at running track back when I was younger, and so he used to rock the braids all the time. And that was just every black boy just had braids. You either had braids or you had waves or you tried dreads. This was like the Lil Wayne era too. So like there was three hairstyles. You either got a fade and had the waves. You either had braids or you was rocking the dreads. And so that was really it. So that was the experimentation for it back then with us.
Yeah, man. So I want to kind of wrap this up by thinking about, as you mentioned earlier, like the regimen that we learned from the barbershop, right? We're talking about self-care. We're talking about getting a haircut on a regular basis, brushing your hair on a regular basis, starting to take care of your hair. How do you think about like how that regimen has kind of transferred or the evolution of that really now in your life, right? As a bald man, how have you seen that kind of continue?
Well, luckily I have people like you who have men's skincare brands. And so I'm still on a journey. Like if we're sitting here talking like I got to figure it out, I don't.
Yeah.
I'm always trying to find new things that work well with my skin, that don't dry me out, that aren't crazy with chemicals. Obviously the big brands, they have paved their way. But I think, being a black man, I need things that are moisturizing, things that are natural, that don't dry my skin out. And so I'm still experimenting. I love to try to travel and get a fresh shave and try to figure out what it looks like for me. I'm still trying to get a thicker beard. So there's a lot of things that, being in my mid 30s, I'm still trying to figure out about my skin and hair care journeys overall. So
no doubt. One final question, man. I always like to ask this on the podcast. Are you a razor guy or a shaver guy?
I use a straight razor. Shavers give me bumps. Yeah. The more irritation I have on my head, the more bumps I get, the pimples, and that's just uncomfortable because then you got to figure out how to maintenance that.
Yeah.
And I have to shave with my grain, keep it clean every 2 days, and I can't use a lot of oils. I have to just keep it really clean. But I know what works for me, and I kind of just got to stick there. But everybody's different. Like my older brother, he's also bald. He's got his regimen. I'm sure you have a completely different regimen. Sure. My dad is old school, soap in a single yellow plastic razor. And I'm like, Dad, there's better things out there for you, but he's stuck in his ways. I don't want to be that. Yeah. I want to be able to constantly, evolve and experience things. The straight razor shave from a professional is that's the best, but it's also expensive. So I'm still learning.
I love that answer because you pretty much say, hey, it's going to be unique to each individual, whatever works best for you. What works for your pops is different. What works for your brother is different. What works for you is different.
Correct.
Get whatever works for you to make sure that you're confident and kind of healthy and can grow in your baldness. So I love it, man.
Appreciate it.
We talked about a lot today, but one thing I got to get to that I get to on every single podcast is who are the top 3 most iconic bald men, right? If you think about the bald Mount Rushmore, right? Who would you put up there, right? There's so many people to think about. You've mentioned your dad helped you kind of understand what this may look like for you, right? I know off camera we talked about some icons like Stone. We talked about Stone Cold Steve Austin and how that era of wrestling was just different, right? For if you had to be there type of thing, right?
It was legendary, and if you missed a train, good luck.
We just talked about Steve Harvey, who obviously he's bald now, but you just talked about his his presence in terms of setting the tone for the hairline. So maybe he deserves a spot on this Mount Rushmore. I want to holler at you, man. Tell me who you think about when you think about those 4 spots. Mount Rushmore ball, man. Who would you put up there?
I think I'm gonna group this one category because there's so many variations of this that I could say, but NBA basketball players,
Okay.
whether it was Reggie Miller, whether it was Ray Allen, whether it was Michael Jordan, they're all like snipers. They were stone cold killers in their primes. They were stone cold killers.
Hold on.
Got to.
Right. So I like how you're trying to group these folks in, right?
But I got to give one.
No, you don't have to give one.
Okay.
But I just think it is insane for you to group Reggie and Ray with the GOAT in terms of this ball. Like, there has to be separation in terms of...
There were degrees, but at the same time, we've had the best experience watching basketball from 100%. The 90s to the 2000s, 2010s, 100%. Into the current, right? Michael Jordan was a killer. He's the GOAT of basketball. He's Mr. NBA. I call him Mr. NBA because I think LeBron is actually the best basketball player ever. But Michael Jordan is Mr. NBA, and he was in his prime killing with the bald head. So I'm going to put MJ up there.
Okay.
But Ray Allen is also, he paved the way for 3-point shooters. So did Reggie Miller. You know, all these people, they there's a reason why the GOAT debate exists, because people did everything right. Shaq also with the Lakers, when he went bald, the most unguardable basketball player ever, the most dominant GOAT ever.
People always say LeBron, if he wants one more ship, he got to cut it off. But no,
I wouldn't be mad at it. Own it. You're already on there.
That's just the way it
LeBron,
goes, man.
Come on, man. I got you. I know a guy who knows a guy. I gotta throw Stone Cold Steve Austin in there. Man, as much as The Rock was also transitioned to being bald, The Rock had like the little he had like the long wavy hair.
Yeah,
but then he transitioned to being bald later. But Stone Cold, as I remember, was always bald. And
what a legend.
1 beer. 2 beers. 3 beers. I say that all the time. Stone Cold is the man. Like that 90s era of Kane and all these guys, the Big Show.
Undertaker, what a time.
Undertaker, but Stone Cold was constantly the guy. He was the man.
Setting the tone.
Him and The Rock for me.
Okay.
So I'm gonna put Stone Cold up there just for the wrestlers, okay? And then number 3, I'm gonna throw myself.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I love that. I love that.
That's the confidence of it.
I love that. Yeah.
I owned it early, man. I was 22, 23. Like, a lot of guys weren't shaving their heads that early, you know, and my dad didn't start shaving his head until he was in his upper 30s, 40s. And so for me, it was like, all right, I'm not going to be one of those guys that's out here looking crazy.
Yeah.
I had enough confidence to just do whatever I needed to do, and no matter what it was in life. And why not? I've given so many of my guy friends, I'm like, look, bro, you're going to look good with it, bro.
So you named a lot of names, and I am going to press you here. I'm going to press you to name a top 3. You gave us yourself, so that's number 1 off gate. We got 2 more spots. Are those spots going to Stone Cold and
Jordan?
And Jordan?
Yeah.
I got it. I like it.
I could throw a 6-man like Montel Jordan, Tyrese in there.
We talked about Tupac offline.
Tell
me how you think Pac could fit in that.
Tupac he's got to be in that conversation. Like, if we're making a Mount Rushmore, that's 4 slots plus a 5th man or a 6th man, however you want to play it. You got to put Tupac in there. No legendary, because Tupac also made it swaggy. Tupac would rock the bandana with it tied backwards. He had the nose ring. A lot of women were like, Tupac was a handsome dude.
Oh, for sure.
So, you know, there's no one way to be bald.
Yeah.
You know, because Tupac didn't have facial hair. You have a beard.
Yep.
I have the goatee. Like, there's a lot of ways to be bald and look good with it. And I think that more men need to hear that.
I love this part of the conversation, because what you just brought up for me is, again, Tupac and Tupac was, you know, for many, depending on how you look at Tupac, he was considered a gangster rapper, right? Depending on who you ask, right? Obviously, he was an amazing actor, a poet, so many things, very multifaceted, right? But to your point, he was very unique in his look, right? I don't know many guys who were wearing a nose ring at that time, right? Yeah.
I think him being from the West Coast has a lot to do with his swag and his style. Being multifaceted, I think that it breeds confidence.
Yeah.
You know, imagine going on the biggest stage like Mike or Stone Cold, Tupac. The level of confidence, all these names that we're naming,
for sure.
The level of confidence you have to do what you do your prime, at your best, ready to go at any given moment, on top of like having a hair care routine.
Yeah.
You're shaving all the time.
Yeah.
You're always in front of camera. So like, there is something to be said about like owning the confidence. And I think that opens up doors for being in front of a camera, shooting that game-winning shot in the NBA Finals, winning the championship belt. Like, going and doing all these movies that Tupac did. There's so many people that like I think we've had good examples of that. If I'm a black man, if I'm a man in general that is going bald and I'm struggling to keep my hair and I don't have the money to take that flight to Turkey and figure it out, there's enough people and enough resources for you to be like, well, let me try it.
Yeah.
And see where this takes me, because, you know, you do have options to keep your hair. Or if you're going to go this route, if you know somebody that's bald, you can ask them questions.
100%.
I would rather, I think it's just, as a man, like we go through a lot, the more confidence you can have, I think it makes it a little bit easier.
100%.
So,
and I think you get into a part of the conversation here where I think when oftentimes guys, when they start to lose their hair, they're like, okay, how do I compensate for that in other areas? Whether it's that, you know, some guys will get in the gym. Let me work out, start getting swole. Some guys will be like, okay, I'm not gonna have a hairline. Let me accessorize a little bit more, right? Everybody knows you for the dangling earrings. Everybody's like, oh, you always got a new dangling earring. And I'm like, that's my thing now. I don't have waves no more. How can I be different? How can I set myself apart, right? And you mentioned Tupac was doing the nose ring, the bandana, but all of those things are like style trends that now we get to look back on, like, all right, how can I like set myself apart? How can I be unique in my own sense? So I love you bringing that into the conversation, man. You also just brought up another thing I want to get into now. You just mentioned like there's so many guys now that are probably dealing with hair loss, and luckily for them, there's folks like you that can holler at, like, yo, Corwin, what? Matter of fact, is there any homies that you have that are going through and holler at you like, hey, yo, I'm struggling?
There's
like,
a couple guys in my life, bro. I got a couple of like people that I consider my brothers, brothers from another mother, that I'm really like, I had this conversation with my younger sister. She's dating a fantastic young man named Brennan, and he literally was like balding. And then I just saw him for my baby shower recently. He finally, you know,
came
into
home.
it. He came home.
Yeah.
And I'm like, see, you look great, bro. I'm mad it took you this long to get there, but you know, every man's got to make that decision. Whether it's the hairline receding or, you know, you sunroof's opening up.
How does he like it now? What is his, you know, is he still getting used to it? How is he?
He's still getting used to it for sure. It's still fresh for him. But, you know, I think once you realize that, like, you can be a handsome man, you can still look good, you can have the accessories, you can still be you.
Yeah.
And it's just a new part of it. I think once you own it, it's a part of like that Deion Sanders. If you look good, you feel good. If you feel good, you perform good. Like, it's a part of it. I think when you're struggling with the balding, you're not looking good. You're not feeling good. You're not being confident. And he was also, you know, in talking to my, you know, this young man, he was also feeling like he had to compensate areas. He was like, you know, I'm trying all these things. I want to get into boxing. You know, I wanted to, you know, do this. And now I'm like watching this young man grow up, and he's like learning Japanese. He's like trying to be that multifaceted man. Yeah. He's in his mid-20s. And I'm like, this is the time to do it, because you set yourself up for, it's a snowball effect. It starts to cascade and it affects every other part of your life.
Dude, you know what you're getting on right now? Oftentimes we're here say, it's this phrase there, like all the greats reinvent themselves, right? And when you're going bald, it's an opportunity to kind of reinvent yourself, right? And like you start to figure out, like, because sometimes like when you have that hairline, that's all you think about. Like, yo, this is who I am, right? When you lose that, you get to think about like, all right, what other parts of me? I can't rely on this anymore. What other parts of me do I want to show the world, right? And you're getting into that now. Yes, he's talking about, I want to learn Japanese. I want to really start to dive into other interests in my life. I think that's beautiful. The last part I want to get into, man, I love to close every episode with really talking about what kind of advice can we give to folks who may be dealing with hair loss right now, right? I think oftentimes men start to beat themselves up when they're dealing with hair loss. For you, I you have a great story because you didn't have to go through that, right? My story is very different from yours, man. I struggled with anxiety for over a year. I was wearing a hat 24/7 trying to hide that, you know, and so many men deal with that. And what we end up finding out on the other side is like, wow, like I was beating myself up so much internally, but on the outside, nobody really cared, right? I went bald thinking like, oh, people are going to think I'm older. People are going to think I'm ugly. But you finally do it, and like people are like, "Yo, finally, you should have been done this. You look great." So there's this like internal battle that we place on ourselves that doesn't actually exist externally at all.
Yeah.
So I want to hear from you, like now that you're in front of the camera, you're on the Come Home podcast right now. If like somebody was listening to this episode right now, man, what advice would you give them? What would you share with them to say, hey, like this is what I would do to help you get over that journey?
I think it would just be realistic in saying like you're not going to lose anything but a little bit of hair. like you're going to gain a lot of other things too, because once you start doing it, your confidence is embedded in being bald. Like it's like my kids will never know me with hair. Yeah. So understanding that, like there's a lot of resources out there for you. Like I have a friend, his name is Antonio, and he traveled the country and went on this whole Black barbershop diaspora tour. And he's got a book called Up Next, like you're up next for your cut. And once I learned that I didn't have to lose the barbershop. If that's your identity in having hair, you can still have it. You can still be a part of barbershop talk because you can go get a bald shave. Yep. So there's nothing that you're gonna lose that outweighs what you're gonna gain.
Woo!
And I think that's the most important piece of being bald, because you know, I get to meet you. I've bought your products.
Yep.
I get to invest in your brand. And now we're sitting here having a conversation face to face where I think like a lot of men need to hear like the information that you and I have. My older brother's bald. He's got his own journey. I would love to like, you know, go get a cut with him at Manifest and just introduce him to this. So for me, I don't get to lose anything but a little bit of hair. I already shaved my face. It's going to grow back. Yeah. If I really wanted to rock the ugly baldy, I could. I just have enough confidence to not do that to myself. So I think if you're ultimately struggling with this hair loss journey, try it.
Yeah.
I guarantee you a lot more women will be more receptive to you, or whoever you're dating 100%. Will be a lot more receptive, because it shows that like you're able to own something. And then having a routine in that is like self-care. Whether it's a skincare routine for your face, shaving your head and going to get a clean cut, going to the gym, like you're saying, there's so many ways that you can like still continue to take care of yourself to where you're benefiting you first.
Wow. I mean, preaching, man. I think I love everything you just said there. And I think one thing that stood out to me, really blew my mind, is you said, you're not going to lose anything but a little bit of hair, but what you lose, you're going to gain so much more. Mm-hmm. And I mean, I think that's just the realest piece of advice, and it's just real talk, man. One piece I will say though, fellas, listen to Corwin's advice, but one thing you cannot do, one thing that is an absolute no-no, is hat fishing.
Oh,
no hat fishing.
Yeah, no hat fishing.
All right. Once you shave that head, embrace it. You know what I'm saying?
Just go for it.
Have that confidence. Go for it. And man, I can't thank you enough for joining me today, man. This has been a beautiful episode. Before we get out of here, man, please plug. How can they find you on Instagram, Twitter, social media? What's the best way for them to find you?
You can follow me on Instagram at Chef Corwin Hemming. I post anything that's relevant to my life, but more importantly, like, you know, me opening up a restaurant, you have avenues to come enjoy the food that I cook, more importantly.
Yeah, no doubt. Well, ladies and gentlemen, it's a wrap. Another episode of the Ball to Bowl podcast. Thank you for tuning in, and we'll see y'all next time.